Hello everybody, welcome back to our, I've lost count, 5th or 6th coronavirus quarantine cooking class. Tonight we're going to be making chocolate brownies, chewy, gooey, delicious chocolate brownies. Before we get to that, I wanted to remind you that Mother's Day is this coming Sunday. We've been selling lots of packages for people to give to their moms. We'd love to put something together for you. If you can think of anything, wine or Hero Scrubbies, whatever your mom's into, we would love to help you out with that. The other thing is that we have the special on gift certificates that we've been doing 10% off, which is actually 10% on, because if you buy a $100 gift certificate, get an extra $10 for free. That is also ending on Mother's Day. So if you want to get your mother a gift certificate, now's the time to do it. Get her something extra special. Again, we've been putting some items up on our website that you can buy online through PayPal. So please keep doing that, or check it out if you haven't. We have thousands of SKUs, so obviously we can't put everything up on the website, but you may find some things that you need, and it's a quick and easy way to place an order. Otherwise, give us a call at 207-443-1402 to place an order for curbside pickup, or you can email us at info@cooksemporium.com to give us the information, including your phone number would be great, because then we can call you as soon as we have your order ready. We're open every single day, Monday through Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we would love to see you if we haven't yet. So let's get into brownies. I made a batch earlier today, and you can see how gooey and gorgeous and beautiful they are. I used the same recipe that we're using tonight, except that I made a little mistake, and I added an extra stick of butter. And I gotta tell you, these brownies are amazing. So if you have an extra stick of butter or an extra half a stick of butter, I encourage you to throw it in here. They'll be perfectly fine with just the one stick, but these brownies are to die for, seriously. Really gooey and chewy and delicious. So if you're not into the butter, just stick with the one stick, but really highly recommend mistakes. You never know what you're gonna find. So moving right into it, I don't have a double boiler. I have one for sale, of course, which is a little pot that fits right on top of another pot. You put the water in the bottom, and it's great for melting things, and you can't really burn it unless you let the water boil out of the bottom. Instead, even though this is a cooking store, I am using a makeshift one, so I have a pot of boiling water and a stainless steel bowl. If you have a glass bowl that is heat resistant, you can use a glass bowl as well. And I'm just letting that heat up, and first part of the recipe is the butter and the chocolate. So I'm going to cut the chocolate up. It's very hard, so be careful with your fingers. Good idea to keep part of your hand on the blade here, keep a little bit of control and keep your fingers out of the way. But just putting some pressure on there is kind of breaking it up into pretty small pieces. They don't have to be tiny, but you do want it to melt. You don't want to be spending all day over a hot stove, especially as it's getting warmer and nicer outside. We want to spend our time eating the brownies, not making them. So there's 4 ounces. This is another 4 ounces. This is Baker's unsweetened chocolate. There are tons of recipes that use cocoa powder, and cocoa powdered brownies are good as well. I think the real chocolate adds a little bit more flavor. But they're both, you know, any way you make brownies, they're brownies. It's chocolate. They're going to be good. So it's broken up here. Okay. And I'm going to put this right into the bowl. Some kind of bigger chunks there. I could have gone back and made those a little bit smaller, but as you know by now, I'm not a very precise cook. I just like to get it done. All right, so there's the chocolate. Here comes the butter. This one's softened. It's been sitting out for a while. It's fine out of the fridge too. It'll just take a tiny bit longer to melt. Shouldn't be too long. And then we have This is vegetable oil. Canola oil works well. You could use avocado oil. We don't want to over oil it because we don't want to add too much of the flavor, but the oil is actually going to be part of what makes them chewy. So there we go. And I'm just going to grab my whisk. And our pan's probably kind of hot. You can see it's already melting in here. Chocolate's nice and hot. And we're just going to let this kind of all melt up together. So this, as you saw, I'm using only 1 stick of butter, but I highly encourage more butter. Those brownies really are superb. So the brownies that I made earlier have some semi-sweet chocolate chips in them and also some Heathbar bits. So they've got a little kind of caramelly flavor to them. I'm just going to make sure, you want to make sure all of the chocolate is completely melted, all of the big chunks. Don't worry about it burning. Careful about on the edges when you're stirring and it gets up on the edges, that part can kind of cook on a little bit. Just make sure you scrape it every so often with the side of your whisk or your spatula. Just a little bit more. Turning off my stove. Okay. I think I got it. So I'm just going to move this right over here and see how nice and glossy that is. Beautiful. Smells delicious. And we are going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. A little bit more in there. It's a little light. And a cup of brown sugar. With brown sugar, you want to make sure that it's packed. With flour or other sugars or anything else, generally you want it as loose as possible. But because brown sugar can clump, you want to make sure that it's packed in there really well to make sure that you're getting an actual full cup. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't matter if you use dark brown sugar or light brown sugar. It might change the flavor very slightly, but it's not going to make a big difference. So I've got my 2 sugars and my hot bowl. Fortunately, I have asbestos fingers from many years of working in restaurants. They're not really asbestos. That would be bad. And I'm just going to mix the sugar in here. And make sure there are no clumps. You want to make sure it's all really well mixed. And then I'm going to add my eggs. And I usually add 1 at a time just so you can make sure that the yolk and the albumin are really well mixed and you don't get little bits of egg. And you can also feel, if you're doing this with me right now, you can feel that the texture is really changing just by adding a couple of eggs in there. It really feels like a thicker batter. And I'm going to add vanilla. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Oops, maybe a little more. And the recipe says to stir vigorously for 5 to 10 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time when you're whisking. And you probably don't need to do it that long. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth and then it's got a little bit of a shine to it. And I am going to stop right there, even though that was probably like 2 minutes. But it looks good. It's got a nice shine. As you can see, it's a good consistency. There are no clumps of sugar or anything in there at all. Just chocolatey goodness. And then I am going to measure out a cup of flour, all-purpose flour, and a half a teaspoon of baking powder. Do not use baking soda, use baking powder. Usually when I write recipes, I put the powder or soda in capital letters because it's so easy to confuse the two of them. And salt. Okay, and I'm just gonna mix that up a little bit and get rid of my whisk. If there are any youngsters at home, they might want to do a little whisk cleaning with their tongues. Really rich and chocolatey. And make sure I'm doing things right here. So I tend not to. I'm going to put flour in. And your first couple of passes, don't get too vigorous or you'll have a huge cloud of flour all over you. Just get it mixed in as best you can. You can make these in a stand mixer too. You don't have to do it old style. And again, you want to make sure that you don't have any chunks of flour or pockets of baking powder or salt in there. Just want to give it a couple of really good stirs. Make sure you're getting the bottom. And let's make sure I haven't forgotten anything, as I am apt to do. Okay, looks pretty good. So for this batch, I'm going to put in some white chocolate chips. These are Mike's favorite, so these will be Mike's brownies. That's about 3/4 of a cup. You can go a little more than that if you want to. And then I have some pecans. You can crush them up if you like to. I like them in big chunks myself. I'll put a whole cup of nuts in there. And mix that all in nicely. So you can put in other kinds of nuts, other kinds of chips, peanut butter chips or cinnamon chips. You can put in dried fruit, dried cherries, dried blueberries. Anything that goes with chocolate would be great in here. M&Ms, peanuts. And now I've lined a baking pan with some parchment, and I just kind of taped the corners a little bit. It doesn't really matter. Just trying to get kind of fancy on you here. Talk louder. Batter in there. And then of course there's always the bowl to be scraped by little helpers or big helpers, as the case may be. And I'm just going to press this into the pan to make it nice and even. And spread it out a little bit so you don't have thin bits that are going to get overcooked. You want everything to be nicely cooked. So what I did with the other batch, one thing I was reading was for chewy brownies, after you take them out of the oven, put them into the refrigerator for about 10 minutes, and it helps to cool it really quickly, which makes them more chewy. So there are our white chocolate and pecan brownies, and these are going in the oven at 350. I would do them for about, the recipe says 35 to 40 minutes. I'd do them 30 minutes, check them, put them in for another few minutes if you need to. It really depends on your oven and how hot your oven is. If your oven runs really hot, you want to do it a little bit less. For nice chewy fudgy brownies, you want them a little undercooked. If you like them more cakey or more well done, that's fine too. So you just fancy little dessert here. And if you see the camera shaking, we're not having an earthquake. It's just anticipation of what is to come. My camera person was quite excited about brownies tonight. So this is Shane's of Maine, and it's quite hard, but get some out here. So again, it is a chocolate brownie with Heathbar chunks in it. Some delicious Maine-made Shane's of Maine French vanilla ice cream. And because you can't really get enough chocolate, we've got Stonewall Kitchen's dark chocolate sea salted caramel. And I just heated this up a little bit in the microwave for like literally 10 seconds. You don't want to cook it. Oh my gosh, that looks good, Heather. That looks like supper to me. So if you guys send pictures of your brownies, you can make them into sundaes or desserts, or you can just send us a picture of your brownies. Please do so to info@acook'semporium.com or tag us on Facebook or Instagram. And this week we're giving away a stasher. You may have noticed that I have some of my ingredients I keep in these. They're a silicone, platinum silicone reusable Ziploc bag. You can wash them in the dishwasher or by hand. They can go in the freezer, they can go in the oven, they can go in the microwave. They're just absolutely fantastic, and they come in a bunch of different sizes, so big ones and also little snack size. And so please send us your pictures. We'd love to give you one of these, and enjoy your brownies for dinner or dessert or breakfast. And join us again next week at 4:30 live on Facebook. Thanks again.